Aurora Cannabis stock price prediction. Okay, guys, so this is a follow-up video from the Aurora Cannabis video that I recorded a few weeks ago. Someone asked if they should sell their shares. I believe the shares were probably trading around $6 to $7, and I recommended holding on to those shares of Aurora Cannabis simply because there's a lot of nice catalysts coming on. So probably the most important catalyst that we're looking at is currently this week. So if you guys are subscribed to my daily watch list newsletter, you can grab that by clicking the link in the description box or going to investortrip.com/newsletter. But I mentioned that Congress, the House of Representatives, is going to be voting on the MORE Act this week. And this is one of the biggest steps for the entire cannabis industry in the United States. As we know personally, New Jersey last month legalized cannabis. So now there's quite a few states on board, but still cannabis is illegal in the majority of the United States. So this is a really, really important decision. So obviously, the bill has to be passed by both the House and the Senate and then signed by the president for it to become a law. But right now, the House is kind of like the first biggest hurdle. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, and then I'm going to give you guys an updated price prediction. Okay, so I'm on the Phoenix Business Journal, and it says cannabis legislation bill is set for historic U.S. House vote. So it says, as all goes according to plan, a full chamber of the United States Congress will this week vote for the first time on a bill to end federal cannabis prohibition. So the MORE Act, that stands for Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, is a really huge step, guys. So this bill would basically deschedule cannabis, expunge many convictions, tax sales at 5%, invest in grants with a heavy focus on social equity, and give cannabis businesses access to the SBA, Small Business Administration loans. So this is one of the reasons why you're seeing cannabis stocks kind of pick up as a whole. We've seen stocks basically like Tilray, Green Thumb, Aurora Cannabis, of course, and many other smaller, even a Sundial Grower stock is kind of moving up quite a bit. So this is a really good news for the entire industry, and this is one of the reasons why I recommended holding on to Aurora Cannabis, because obviously they didn't have the best quarter last quarter, but really the whole, the US is a much larger market than Canada, and if United States legalizes cannabis, that's going to be a huge boom for the industry. It's going to be basically officially legit. So if we take a look at how the stock has been trading, basically, it was up over 11% yesterday, and now it's even up and after hours pre-market as I'm recording this video, guys. So I still think that the House will probably pass this bill. With the whole pandemic situation, governments are basically desperate for all the tax dollars that they can receive, and it just seems silly the fact that New Jersey was a huge step. If New Jersey's legalized it, of course it's already legal in places like Washington D.C., Colorado. It just makes sense to legalize it on the federal level. 5% tax would add so much needed revenue that the United States needs, with interest rates at, basically near zero, and a pandemic that's crushed economic productivity. The government needs all the money it can get. A lot of Americans aren't working right now, and since the majority of our economy is spending, when people aren't working, they're not buying stuff, so that really hurts the overall economy. So if we take a look at it, now let's take a little bit of technical analysis on Aurora Cannabis stock. Okay, so we're on TradingView right here, and as you can see here, the stock, Aurora Cannabis had already crossed over the 20-day moving average. That's a bullish signal, and volume is up. So, for a while here, when I was talking about how it was a good buying opportunity to buy the stock, this looks like this could potentially be the bottom for cannabis stock. So when I mean the bottom is I'm saying that if we were to look at this chart a year from now, looking at Aurora Cannabis that was trading at like $4 or something like that, that looks like pretty much the low that we're going to see. If the House passes this bill, you're going to see the entire industry skyrocket. So obviously cannabis stocks were really hot in 2019, but the federal legislation, it really wasn't in place for these companies to make a lot of money. And most of these Canadian cannabis companies, obviously, Canada has a lot of people, but the U.S. market is still the most lucrative market probably in the entire world for cannabis. And with CBD oil and things like that, there's just so much opportunity here. So I still think that this is the beginning. 2020 is a really interesting time period because we kind of have all of these new industries. So we have cannabis stocks, we have gambling stocks, we have EV stocks. There's all these like new industries that are coming into place. And I think if we're in like 2023, 2024, 2025, and we're looking back to 2020, I think a lot of people are going to be like, man, Why didn't I buy cannabis stocks? So that's kind of my rationale, what I'm thinking here. I'm trying to think long term on this. As legislation comes into place and more people become comfortable with it, I think you're going to see a boom in sales. And the cannabis industry is projected to grow absolutely massively, in the future for many reasons, such as medicinal reasons, recreational reasons, CBD oil reasons. It's just going to be a huge boom. And obviously, I think even though canopy growth is probably the best hedge on the cannabis industry as well, I still think Aurora Cannabis is significantly undervalued. So as we take a look here, if we take a look at their market cap, it's just over $2 billion. So, this company is definitely in a prime position to profit immensely from kind of this whole change in how people think and how the governments and how, people think about cannabis. So where do I think that this stock is going in the future? Well, if we kind of take a look back at the year-to-date chart, if we kind of take a look back at the 1 year chart, we could see that just a year ago, this stock was trading at $32. So it's basically around, it's down basically around 66%. And if we take a look exactly on how much the stock is down, it's down, basically about 60% or so. So you could look at it like this. The shares are massively on sale. So what's going to happen is that basically, legislation is really what's holding back a lot of these cannabis companies. Sales have been down, obviously, because of the pandemic, with people shut in, with lockdown orders. That has been very negative headwind for the cannabis industry. So we have two headwinds. We have obviously federal legislation for the U.S. and we have lockdown orders. So what I would say with Aurora Cannabis is patience is a virtue, guys. Like I said, do your own due diligence. I'm not telling you to buy Aurora Cannabis stock, but I just think it's a mistake if you're thinking what's going on now. This is kind of 2020 has been the worst possible situation for companies like Aurora Cannabis, waiting on federalization and lockdown orders so people can't go out and purchase cannabis. So obviously there are a lot of these sellers selling cannabis online, but let's be honest, the majority of people are going to be heading to dispensaries to purchase their cannabis. And if they can't go outside, they're going to stock up, to avoid kind of having constant, trips where they're not able to. So that's bad. So what we want is obviously we're going to be looking forward into 2021. We want vaccines passed. We want people to be safe and healthy. And we want dispensaries open. And when dispensaries are open and there's federal legalization, you're going to see an explosion in cannabis sales. Not just Aurora Cannabis, but across the board. So obviously people are going to have their, their preferences. Maybe they like, Aurora Cannabis. Maybe they like Canopy Growth products. But overall, all of these stocks are going to trade higher. And I think it's exactly what you saw with the EV kind of boom. Tesla was kind of the leader, and then all these other stocks like many of them, Lordstown Motors, Solo, NIO, Li Auto, these stocks just kind of followed suit. So I think that we've already seen the bottom for cannabis stocks. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the MORE Act. My guess is that it's going to get passed in the House, but there might be some issues in the Senate. So we'll see, guys. But like I said, I think this is still time. If you're holding shares of Aurora Cannabis, you're already up quite a bit from the low of $4. I would say continue to hold on to them. If you're thinking about buying, there's still opportunity here. $2 billion market cap is not a lot of money for a company that's probably top 3 my favorite cannabis stocks to buy. And I would rank them as number 1, I would say Canopy Growth. Number 2 would be Aurora, and number 3 would be Green Thumb. So that's my take on Aurora Cannabis, guys. I'm going to give you guys a future price target for this stock. So, right now, if this House bill gets passed, we're probably going to see Aurora probably approach, this previous resistance level of around $17 to $18. So I think there's a bit more upside. I think $18 is a reasonable price target long term. If marijuana gets legalized next year, we're going to see Aurora Cannabis head to 30s, 40s, and 50s. There would just be nothing holding this back. Yes, competition will be a bit more intense, but once the vaccines are passed, you're going to see an explosion in sales. And after that, it's going to be the cannabis industry is going to absolutely boom. There's going to be a lot of innovation. More celebrities going to come on and endorse products and things like that. So right now, I think the whole stigma of cannabis is kind of keeping away a lot of celebrities and a lot of influential people from talking about cannabis. But if it's legalized, you're going to see an explosion in interest. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. So please smash the like button if you enjoy my content. Smash the red subscribe button to receive future updates. And are you guys subscribed to my watch list? I post a daily stock watch list Monday through Friday on stocks that I'm watching for the day. So you guys can get that by clicking the link in the description box or going to investortrip.com/newsletter. So that's until next time, guys. Take care.